This episode is brought to you by Marvel Studios' Captain America: Brave New World, starring Anthony Mackie as Captain America and Harrison Ford as President Ross. Don't miss the explosive return of Captain America as Sam Wilson uncovers a mysterious plot that threatens to destabilize the globe and confront an enemy that has the entire world seeing red. Enter a brave new world in IMAX and 3D this Friday. Get tickets now.
This is the Michael K. Show podcast.
I gotta get more K.
Listen live weekdays at 1 on 880 ESPN, the ESPN New York app, and your smart speaker.
And a good afternoon, everybody. This is indeed the Michael K. Show. We thank you for joining us on this Wednesday. It's February 12th. It's 2025. Michael K. and you. You're the co-host, 1-800-919-3776. It's a Wednesday. We talk to Mike Lupica at 2:30. A lot of stuff to do. Want to get you involved as well. And we'll start off with basketball. The Knicks with a big win yesterday in Indy to bounce back from that awful loss against the Boston Celtics. So they win 128-115, and it was much worse than that. The Knicks really emptied the bench, the back end of the bench at the end. And Indiana ran off about 8 points, something like that. But this was a total obliteration of the Pacers, the team that eliminated the Knicks last year in the postseason. And the thing that was impressive about this win, it was a bounce back for Karl-Anthony Towns, who really played poorly against Boston. He looked great in this game, dominated in the first half, finished with 40 points. Josh Hart, who did not play well against the Celtics, had a terrible plus-minus, was great yesterday with 30 points. And the thing that really impressed me the most about this game is that the Knicks really used their bench, because Jalen Brunson picked up his fourth and fifth fouls about 3 minutes into the third quarter. So I believe when he left, the Knicks were up by 8 or 9, and then when he came back, maybe midway through the fourth quarter, they were running away with it. So they built on their lead without their best player, which was outstanding. McBride played well. Shamet played well. They all did a really, really good job. Campaign did well. So the cries and the concerns about the Knicks bench, I think, might have been a little bit premature. It's still probably their weakest part of their team, but it's certainly not something that I think that is going to submarine their season, because we're getting closer, from what we hear, to Mitchell Robinson coming back. And that solves a lot of problems, because he could give you 20 minutes a game. He's not going to start. And when he comes in, he plays center. He's a rim protector. He's a great rebounder. And when he's in, Karl-Anthony Towns slides over to the 4, where he's eminently comfortable. He played that last year and the year before with Rudy Gobert in Minnesota, playing the center position. So he could do more things. I'm still concerned about, the hand injury, the finger injury. But he was hitting threes yesterday. He looked terrific. I thought it might be the best thing for him to not play, to get the knee tendinopathy better and maybe heal the finger a little bit more. But he's going to the All-Star game. He's one of the starters in the All-Star game, so it's not like he would get a lot of rest. This is the last game tonight for the Knicks before the All-Star game, so they'll play Atlanta, and I don't think OG Anunoby will play. He did make the trip to Indiana, so he was doubtful, but it doesn't make any sense for him to play. Don't play him tonight. I'm glad he didn't play yesterday. You want to get that foot issue healed. You want that to be no problem whatsoever. So if he doesn't play today, you've got the whole All-Star break. So he would have missed about 19 or 20 days healing that injury. That's big. They need that guy to be 100%, because this team, now they didn't have Miles Turner yesterday, which is big, but this team that they blew out yesterday in Indy was a team that knocked you out. And they knocked you out because of the injuries last year. OG Anunoby was hurt. The Knicks can go far if they have people that are important to them remain healthy. You got to get OG right. You got to get Cat as right as he can be. Jalen Brunson is Jalen Brunson. Josh Hart's been tremendous, terrific. Mikal Bridges has been meh. He has not played like a guy that you give up 5 first-round draft picks for, but he's been okay. I wouldn't say he's a disappointment, but he's been somewhat underwhelming. But he answers the call every day. Has more minutes than any player in the NBA, I think, by about 100 minutes. So he's played 2 more games than anybody else in the NBA if you just look at minutes. So there's 48 minutes in a game. He's got 100 more minutes than the next closest guy. And that's one of his strengths. He's going to answer the bell. So a nice win for the Knicks. Now, another basketball story that I don't think anybody saw coming is that the Nets, who play tonight against Philly, have been on fire. And that's a bad thing. They have 5 wins in the past 6 games. They're 3 games behind Chicago for the 10th seed in the East, which would put them in the play-in. 6 of their next 10 games are against teams currently out of the playoff picture, including tonight against Philly. That's not what they need. I am not someone who advocates for tanking a season. But if they get in the play-in, then they have no chance of getting Cooper Flagg. None. This team was built to make the lottery. But the only mistake they made was they hired a young coach in Jordi Fernandez who did not get the memo that they're supposed to lose. He coaches them hard. He wants them to win every single game. And that's great. So you have to weigh this if you're the Nets. What's better for them? Learning how to win and getting into a quick elimination in the play-in? Or having a chance to get one of the 2 kids from Rutgers or get Cooper Flagg from Duke? I don't think you get benefits at all from learning how to win by just sneaking into the wild card or the play-in. I just don't. And I'm not saying that they should lose on purpose. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that the way it's going is not the way it was planned. It's not good. It's not good for them winning this much. You know, they had a stretch where they'd lost 7 in a row, I think. And now they get off on this run where they've won 5 of 6. And that runs contrary to everything they've tried to do. They've gotten rid of their best players for the most part. Schroeder's gone. Dorian Finney-Smith gone. I mean, this is what they did. This was their plan. Their plan was to accrue all these assets, first-round draft picks, get back control of their first-round draft pick from this year, which they did, and have a chance at the best players in the draft. They have a ton of money, too, that they're going to be able to spend. And everybody I talked to that's in the know said it's really not about 25-26 for the Nets. It's about 26-27. But they are setting themselves up for that run. But if they could get a great player in the draft this year, that's low cost. It gets you one step closer to where you want to be. It gives a big player who might shake loose the incentive to come play in Brooklyn because he could play with said player that they got in the draft. So it's a nice, warm, and cuddly story, everybody. It really is. The Nets are making a run. Well, not good. It's not what you want. It's not what you want. Now, if you're a Net fan, it's got to be a little odd for you. Are you rooting for them? Of course you're rooting for them. You're a Net fan. You want them to win. But you also probably want the best thing for their long-range future. And the best thing for their future is for them to get into the lottery and at least have enough ping pong balls to have a spitting chance at getting the number 1 or 2 pick. Now we shift over to college basketball. St. John's at Villanova tonight. And on Saturday, St. John's Creighton. St. John's has really been great. They're 21-3, 12-1 in the Big East. They have 10 straight wins. They're 9th ranked in the country Ninth ranked in the country. That's the highest ranking they had since the end of the season, 1999-2000. So it's been a long time before this kind of relevance for the St. John's program. Villanova needs this win tonight. They need a top-flight win to at least be in the outside discussion of a postseason berth. Otherwise, Kyle Neptune's going to lose his job. But I thought it was interesting what Rick Pitino said yesterday. He said, we're playing about 60% of our potential. And he also said that if he looked at the stats, if somebody handed him St. John's stats for the year, and they said, all right, how do you think this team is doing? He said, I think that they'd be 6 or 7 wins. Think about that. They have 21 wins. They overachieve. They play with incredible intensity, which is a hallmark of a Pitino squad. And their defense is suffocating. Offensively, they worry me. I know it's going to sound like a broken record, but they do worry me. They don't hit the three. At times, they're bad from the foul line. Those are things that are going to get you in a tournament. But it's hard to say a lot of negativity about this because they are going to get better. R.J. Lewis is a legitimate player who could be the first St. John's player to win Big East Player of the Year since Walter Berry. That's how good Lewis has been. Kadari Richmond started off slowly, the kid that came from Seton Hall. Now had a good second half against UConn. They're an interesting team. They're not a great team. They got a great record. The results are great, but they're doing it with mirrors. Even Pitino admits that. But defense does go a long way, everybody. It really does. Because if you can't hit threes, but you can stop other teams from hitting threes, then you're playing on an equal surface. You'll both exchange twos. Threes and bad free throw shooting, a bad combination, but not for St. John's so far this year. So St. John's, Villanova tonight. 1-800-919-3776, 1-800-919-3776. That's the number. So let's get you to be the co-host right now. We're going to talk some baseball as well, and we will start off with Dennis in Center Reach. Dennis.
Yeah, what's up, Mike? How you doing today, brother?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. Listen, Mike, I don't want to disrespect you on your show, but just a couple lazy takes from you to start off. I mean, the Pacers were missing important players last year in the playoffs, too. So I'm just always sick of, the local markets are always going to say, oh, our team was hurt. We do it with the Yankees when, Houston had players injured. So every team is always injured, so that's not an excuse. They lost fair and square. It was a nice win last night, but I think the Pacers are right up there with the Knicks. In Brooklyn, last year the Hawks made the play-in, right, last year, and they got the first pick in the draft. So the new lottery system, it doesn't matter if you finish with 10 wins or 30 wins. They don't want tanking, and they just cut Ben Simmons. I mean, they're going to win games. What do you want them to do? Just lose every single game? So these are professional players.
Whoa, wait a minute. I don't want them to lose games, but the more games they win, if they get in the 10th seed, Dennis, they're going to have fewer and fewer ping pong balls. So what the Hawks did was highly unlikely. I'm not saying that you should want them. I'm saying that the fact that they're winning games is not good for what they're trying to do. And they cut Ben Simmons. What does Ben Simmons mean to this team? He was awful. He doesn't score. He plays once every 2 games. I know that they've gotten rid of their good players, and they continue to win. I was complimenting Jordy Fernandez. Dennis, calm down, baby. Coming out of the chute angry. You're telling me that if the Knicks didn't have OG Anunoby last year, that they would not have beaten the Pacers in that series? You're really telling me that? And I know they have injuries too. All teams have injuries. But the Knicks are a little light on the bench, as we said. So when they have injuries to one of their starting 5, which is a starting 5 that plays more than anybody, then you're going to have an issue. The Knicks can't afford to lose one of their starting 5, particularly their best defensive player that could guard anywhere from 1 to 5. Wow. Let's be happy, everybody. Lazy take. Not a lazy take at all. If they finish 14th in the Eastern Conference, do you believe that they have a better chance, the Nets, to get the top pick than if they finish 10th and defy all odds? And what if you win in the play-in? What if you happen to win? What are your chances then? What if you actually move into the playoff portion of the postseason? Goodness, somebody crapped in his Cheerios. Let's go to Spike in St. Pete. Spike.
Well, I'm going to address that last call. One thing I know about you, and I think I know you pretty well, you never have a lazy take. You may not have a take that everyone agrees with. It just doesn't work that way in the world. But lazy and Michael K., too many jobs, too many hours, too much respect for the listening audience.
Thank you. He just woke up on the wrong side of the bed, but you know what? He listens.
Let him fall off the other side. And I don't know the guy. Maybe he's an Indiana fan. Look, with the swap out last night for the center, Miles Turner, who plays, it just gets me being so old and such a basketball nut job that center's playing, shooting threes in the short corner just doesn't fit with the way I feel about things. He's a decent player. He's probably the longest tenured player there. But Rick Carlisle having a team that's so poor defensive, they were smart. Thibodeau's very smart. Towns had the whole paint to him, and he looks like the thumb's healing a little bit. The bench played well. To have Brunson and Bridges score probably 1/3 of the points that they usually score around that, and Wing going away, that game was won handily. But one comment I want to make, and I know you will agree with me, and by the way, the picture of you with your son, frame it and hang it up somewhere, because that's pure love right there. Your son's so handsome, and thank God he looks like his mother.
Thank
What
God.
what a beautiful picture, man.
Thank
I mean,
you.
the happiness, that's happiness, you know, an old Norman Rockwell. That was beautiful. He had a great time. I mean, that's great to do with him. But my point with the Knicks is simple. They're having trouble matching up against teams, the upper echelon teams. And we're going to get the big fella back. He could make a difference. He will alter shots. That's his main focus there. The last line of defense, he'll make them shoot the floaters higher. He'll last line of resistance. But with him, you got to be careful, Michael. You can't put him in the game with 46 minutes gone because you can't make a free throw.
No, he's a 20-minute guy. He's a 20-minute guy to move Cat over to the side as the 4 and let Cat do his things on the perimeter and let Mitchell be the rim protector. And, yeah, you're right. If you bring him in at the end of the game, they're going to foul him because he's not a good free throw shooter. He is an imperfect player, but the perfect player for the Knicks. They did not go out and get that guy because they're betting on this guy being that guy. So he doesn't have to be great. He has to give them 20 strong minutes. Give everybody a little bit of a rest. Spread the rest around. Because when you move him to 4, then somebody's going to sit down on the bench. If you move Cat to 4, somebody sits down on the bench, gets a little bit more blow. That's it. But if you remember, before he got hurt the last time, he was playing the best ball of his career. Let's go to Jason in the Bronx. Jason.
Hey, Michael. Thanks for taking my call. Hey, listen, I've never really been your biggest fan. I'm a Yankee fan, objective as well. But I have a Met fan I'm really good, close friends with, and he sent me a screenshot of your comments with the Ferrari, Maserati dinghy with Alonso. And he's saying, oh, Michael K. is a Mets hater. And here I am defending you because it was extremely objective. And it led to a conversation that there's only 2 owners in baseball who would look at that Alonso contract that way because they're worth billions. And then my conversation went into this is what is contributing to a lockout that's eventually going to happen. And you've also had some other calls, one about the A's staying in Sacramento, one about the Mavericks going to Vegas. I'm actually here to defend them and actually say that they have something behind that. And correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, the Rays are paying $15 million to the Yankees because of a natural disaster to play in that ballpark.
I think it's $5 million.
$5 million. Okay, well, guess what? That's still $5 million more than what John Fisher is paying because of his incompetency.
Yeah.
And I absolutely do believe, you questioned this on the last call from the time ago, I believe they're staying in Sacramento because there will be people in that city who will offer to pay the stadium. That's what John Fisher does not want to do. He doesn't want to pay for a stadium out of his own pocket. That's why they left Oakland. Vegas has no progress whatsoever. There's a massive problem with baseball coming in, and everybody is just forgetting what's going on.
But Jason, it's interesting because you know that the San Francisco Giants own that territory. They're letting the A's play there until Vegas happens. So there would be a big, big argument about the Giants ceding that territory full time to the Athletics. They're not going to give it up that easily. In fact, that's the Giants' minor league facility. So the Giants are letting them play there, but to move there full time, the Giants look at Silicon Valley and they say that is our territory. They would never let the A's move there. The A's tried to move in the general vicinity of Silicon Valley, and they wouldn't. And Sacramento is also part of their territory. So they're just making this exception. I mean, Sacramento, I don't think is a big enough market to move a major league team. I've heard that there's a chance that, if they could come to an agreement with the Giants, but if they break ground in Vegas, they're going to move to Vegas. And as for the Mavericks moving to Vegas, I don't see it. Hey, I'll admit if I'm wrong. You're going to leave the fourth biggest television market to go to Vegas, which I think is the 40th biggest television market. And it also takes away one of the expansion sites that the NBA has when they want to expand the 32 teams. And as for Met fans, I laughed at some of the stuff because they made a meme about it, Maserati and Nissan, and then they had me under the Nissan, and they had Gary, Ron, and Keith under the Maserati. Great. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing to me how Met fans are obsessed with the Yankee announcer. All they care about is what the Yankee announcer and the Yankee fans, to their credit, whether they like me or not, they never occupy one brain cell about Gary, Ron, and Keith. But Met fans, boy, are they obsessed about me. It's hilarious. I actually laugh at it. Talk about like getting into somebody's brain. Why do you care what I have to say? Why do you care what I have to say? If you think that Pete Alonso making $30 million a year is a smart amount of money to pay a first baseman who had his worst year, had a 788 OPS, then that's on you. You can disagree with me. But again, it gets personal right away. And it doesn't even bother me. It makes me laugh at you that I'm so embedded in your head that you can't get over me. Why do Yankee fans not be Yankee fans aren't concerned about what Gary Cohen says. They respect him. He's great at what he does. But me, wow, you guys can't get over it. I don't get it. And you're more than welcome. Then instead of hiding behind the anonymity of your feed on X, call in. Let's talk about it. What did I say that was so wrong? And if you listen to the whole thing, it's great when you take a screenshot. I said Nissan's a great car. And Pete Alonso at $23 million would have been a great get for the Mets. And I also said it was a great get for the Mets because it was just 1 year. But a $30 million AAV for Pete Alonso is a massive overpay. Massive. If you think that's just Yankee boy saying it, talk to somebody who's actually rational and somebody who's down the middle and objective and see if anybody thinks that $30 million for Pete Alonso is the proper amount of money to spend. Stop obsessing over me. I'm not worth it. I'm a little talk show host who has another job as a Yankee announcer, and you're also negative about me, that I'm not good at what I do, and I've got to come back to you at the same thing I always say, and I don't want to come off as sounding like a jerk, but how's it working out? This is my 34th year being the Yankee announcer. I don't know. I can't be that bad, right? I can't be that bad, but I am certainly living in your brain to like put out something that, oh, he's the worst. Oh, he's terrible. He's a sack of crap. Whatever. Again, how's it working out? It's working out great. I have a happy life. I have 2 great jobs. I've had them for a long time. 23 years on radio, 34 years as the Yankee announcer. Again, maybe you're wrong. Maybe I'm right. Hey, when you work hard, you save hard, so treat yourself with well-earned savings all month long at Bay Ridge Mazda. Get financing rates as low as 0.9% APR on nearly every new model in stock. 0.9% APR. Their goal is complete credit approval regardless of your score. Plus, take advantage of Bay Ridge Plus benefits like ding and dent coverage, key replacement, windshield protection, and roadside assistance. Come see them today in Brooklyn or online at BayRidgeMazda.com. See dealer for details.
When you're a small business owner, having your bookkeeping and taxes in order comes at a cost. I'm not just talking about your money. I'm talking about your time, hours and hours that you could have spent actually growing your business. But guess what? It doesn't have to be that way thanks to Found. Found is a banking platform that doesn't just consolidate your financial ecosystem. Found automates manual activities like expense tracking and finding tax write-offs. Found makes staying on top of invoices and payments so easy. Oh, and by the way, other small businesses are loving Found too. This Found user said, quote, "Found is going to save me so much headache. It makes everything so much easier. Expenses, income, profits, taxes, invoices even," unquote. And Found has 30,000 five-star reviews just like this. Open a Found account for free at found.com/sports. That's found.com/sports. Found is a financial technology company, not a bank. Banking services are provided by Piermont Bank, member FDIC. Don't put this one off. Join thousands of small business owners who have streamlined their finances with Found.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds or Skims, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. On the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. The secret's out. Businesses that want to grow, grow with Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Untuckit uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/network, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/network to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/network.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
He's been here a long time, and he's going to be here even longer.
Catch the show on demand whenever you want. Just subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back, everybody. The Michael K. Show until 3 o'clock. That's when Don, Hahn, and Rosenberg take over. Hey, Game Time. Brought to you by Tullamore Dew Irish Whiskey, because when it's game time, it's Tully time. St. John's at Villanova, that's at 6 o'clock on FS1. At 7:30, Knicks host the Hawks at Madison Square Garden. Pre-game coverage starts at 7 p.m. right here on 880 ESPN. And also at 7:30, the Nets host the Sixers at the Barclays Center. That is on the Yes Network. Tullamore Dew, the original triple distilled, triple blended, triple cask matured Irish whiskey. Be sure to grab a Tullamore Dew and try the new Tullamore Dew Honey during today's action. Glasses up to enjoying Tullamore Dew responsibly. You know, our somewhat truculent caller that started us off today talked about, like, you could still win the lottery if you make the play-in, and then he referenced the Atlanta Hawks. Okay, you know what the Atlanta Hawks' chances of winning the lottery were last year? 3%. Yeah, they won. A blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then too. 3%. The Nets did not put this team together. Sean Marks did not put this team together to have a 3% chance at the top spot in the draft. Yeah, overall tanking is taken away because you could have the far the worst record in the NBA and still not get that top pick. I get it. But you got a better chance. You might have a 12% chance. You might have a 15% chance. A 3% chance hit last year. And that you think is okay. And again, I'm not saying root for the Nets to lose. What I said at the beginning was, you know what? It's not the way they planned it. Jordy Fernandez is too good of a coach. He's not going to let his team lose. And I give Sean Marks credit. He obviously told Jordy Fernandez, you go out and win as many games as you can. And you know what? It's biting him in the butt. It's biting him in the butt. Maybe he should have kept Steve Nash this year. Do you know that Vegas had the Nets as 19 games over-under? 19 games. They were listed as having going to have the worst record in the NBA. They've already exceeded that. It's not even the All-Star game yet. Not even the All-Star game yet. Let's go to Dennis in the car. Dennis.
Michael K., how you doing, sir?
Hey, Dennis. What's up, man?
Nothing much. I'm a lifelong Mets fan, but I'm also been listening to your show for 11 years. And I got to tell you, this has been the best show I've listened to my whole life in terms of sports radio. I was never a fan of sports radio until I heard your show, sir.
Well, that's really nice of you. I appreciate that so much.
And, I hear you talking about how the Mets fans are hating on you, but I'll tell you this. I will never hate on you. As much as I love my announcers, I would love to have you as a Met announcer. Now, I know that won't happen, but a man can dream, right?
Well, I mean, that's a great thing to say. Gary is one of the best, if not the best. And I'm not saying that Met fans should, not love their announcers. They should. They're great. They are great, and they are part of the Met fabric. But as I said, why are Met fans so obsessed with me? Why am I living rent-free in their head when I say something about Pete Alonso and they're, Yankee boy, whatever the case may be? I have never, ever heard a Yankee fan on this show or any show ever reference a Met announcer. Ever. Because they don't concern themselves with that. Now, I know that there's a little bit of a difference here because I do a talk show and Gary, Ron, and Keith don't. But they're very opinionated on the broadcast. Very. And they want their team to win. But Yankee fans never engage that. Met fans, though, wow. It's so nice to live rent-free. Rent-free. I never have to cash a check. I never have to send a check for the amount of time I live in their heads. Oh, they loved the Maserati Nissan thing. Loved it. Let's go to Steve in New Fairfield. Steve.
What's up, Mike? How you doing, bud?
Good. What's up, Steve?
Mike, I hope you take this the right way. I like you. I've listened to you forever. Listened to you, Don and Peter. If I'm one of your co-hosts, I hope you're open just to a little constructive criticism.
Of course.
You touched on it before. One of the big reasons Mets are always harping on the you effect, and them, like you said, you have massive exposure. You've had an afternoon commute drive show on New York radio for how many years? That's number one. And number two, unless the Mets have a 10-year run where they're dominating, the Mets are always, and this isn't a knock, I'm a Yankee fan, but the Mets are a second citizen. So they're going to they always have that second little brother stance. So for you to show, you can obviously project, that's the great thing about your platform. You can go off and respond to people, but when you go on about how you don't care and why do they care about you, believe me, and I don't want to go on and on and say, I like you, Mike, I'm not kissing your butt, but when you go on about it, it's showing that you do care. So
No. I mean, listen, I'll take the constructive criticism, I do, but I mean, Steve, if you listen like you say you do, and I appreciate it, and the wind in the background is making that a bad listen, but last year, it was Don LaGreca, the Met fan. Don was the one who said they should break the team up when they start off poorly. And I said, no, they still have a chance. You got to run with it. Baseball's a long season. I happen to be pretty close with Carlos Mendoza. Before that, Buck Showalter is one of my closest friends in baseball. I mean, that's just nonsense. I'm not one way against, some people, he hasn't gotten over the fact that Juan Soto signed with the Mets. I don't care. I think it's great for the Mets. I said yesterday, anybody who said that it's not going to make the Mets better, they're lying. Of course it makes the Mets better. They went out and they got the best player available, one of the best hitters ever in baseball history. But, do you think I lost sleep over the fact that Juan Soto left the Yankees to go to the Mets? I can honestly tell you, Steve, I didn't lose 1 second of sleep. Not 1 second. I honestly can tell you that. It did not make me toss and turn. I don't care. Yankees build their team. I announced a game. That's all there is to it. Just because he goes over to Queens, okay, good. I wish him luck. I hope he has a great career there. But, I mean, the comments like, oh, he hasn't gotten over the fact. I've gotten over the fact. I couldn't care less. Would I have liked to see him play for the next 15 years with the Yankees? Yeah, because as I've said, why I'm not an anti-Kansas City Chiefs fan. I like to see greatness. He's a great hitter. I would have loved to have seen him 100, however many games I do a year, 135 games. I would have loved to have seen it, but I'm not going to. And you know what? I don't care. Now I still get to see Aaron Judge every day. It's fun to announce great teams. And and Steve, I got to be honest with you. I know you're doubting it. I'm just referencing it because I find it so funny. I do. I find it funny that a fan base would care about what another announcer from another team says about their team. And I'm not anti-Mets at all. I just speak the truth. I've told you I think the Yankees are making a mistake having Dominguez in left. I told you I don't like their third base situation. I'm honest about both teams. If you can't take it, you can't take it. Let's move on. Let's go to Carl in Queens. Carl. Hello, Carl. Carly. Carl. Oh, he's not there. Oh, let's get rid of him, and we'll go to Jason in Uniondale. Jason.
Yeah.
Hey, Jason.
Hey, Michael. How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
All right. Great. On my way down to Philly to cover St. John's Villanova tonight. I'm amped up.
Nice.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make two quick St. John's points at first, and then I'll hang up and let you go. So first, to just kind of play your devil's advocate a bit, you are 1,000% correct on the take that, if they run into the wrong team on any given night, especially with, the offensive struggles that they have, they could really, they could find themselves on the other end of it. But just to play devil's advocate, the thing with their defense, and their shooting struggles were a concern coming into this year, no doubt. But the thing to their defense is, it's not just, they run the press here and there, but it's not just a scheme that you could kind of game plan for. Unless you have the bodies and athletes and that pure 40 minutes of intensity that this team has in your own program, it's just kind of hard to game plan for in practice and really kind of draw up X's and Y's on how you're going to beat them. Because once the ball tips and the game and that game intensity starts, they just bring it on a different level that most teams just don't have. It's not just a scheme where you could try to, figure out how to beat it.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. And the thing that really crystallized it to me, Jason, I did go to the UConn St. John's game and to watch the suffocating defense. And what got me the most was, UConn's an extraordinarily well-coached team. They could not break their press. So after UConn jumped out to a big lead, and then Rick Pitino went to, pressing 94 feet, that was unbelievable. It was unbelievable how suffocating they were. So what Rick did by that, he made it tough for them to bring the ball up. And even if they did bring the ball up, all of a sudden, you've cut the clock in half for them to get into their offensive sets. And the one thing that Pitino's teams have always done, they're in better shape than everybody else. I don't know how he does it, but he must put them through preseason workouts like we can't even imagine because they're in better shape than the other team. For them to play with that defensive intensity for 40 minutes is extraordinary, and it's hard to match. Now, this is a two-time defending champion, UConn Huskies, and we know that Hurley is one of the best coaches in the world. They were not prepared for that intensity. Now, they did cut it down toward the end. They did. And they made it close. And then R.J. Lewis had that big shot. And even Rick Pitino said that was one of the worst games we played all year. But the thing that got them that victory was their defense. It was not their offense. Their defense is so good. So good. If you can't watch a St. John's game and appreciate what they're doing defensively, then you're losing exactly why they're winning. There's a reason why they have 21 wins. It's not because of their offense. They don't have a great offense. Pitino admitted that. He said they're playing at 60% of their capability. So he thinks there's more there. And if you remember last year, they got hot at the end, but it was a little too late to get into the NCAA. This year, they're coming down to the stretch where Pitino's teams usually gel, and they're 21-3 and 12-1 in the Big East. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's a fun team to watch. 1-800-919-3776. That's the number. We got a lot more to do. The Rodgers story continues to get intriguing. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then you're the co-host, 1-800-919-3776. Hey, it may be the offseason, but every season is Bigelow tea season. You know I'm picky about what I drink, especially on days that I have a show. One of the first things I do each day is reach for a mug full of Bigelow tea. I love the different flavor options, and it's perfect for someone who makes his living behind a microphone. Want to know what keeps me going? Look no further than my cup of Bigelow tea next to me in the studio. So grab a mug full of your favorite Bigelow tea and tea proudly. Bigelow tea, the official hot tea of the New York Yankees.
There's one thing that will forever change the way you sleep, and it's the softest 100% organic cotton sheets from Boll & Branch. You'll fall asleep faster, wrapped in the most luxurious comfort. You'll never sleep hot again with sheets that feel breathable to sleep in. You'll experience the purest softness on night one and feel your sheets get even softer with every wash. Discover the difference with 15% off your first set of sheets at bollandbranch.com with code SPORTS15. Exclusions apply. See site for details.
Grainger knows space at your facility is limited. As a maintenance specialist, you only have so many spots for backup products in your inventory roster, which means space on your bench comes at a premium. Well, when it comes to breadth and depth, Grainger's got you covered. They've got over 1 million industrial-grade products. Plus, fast delivery helps reduce the inventory you need to keep on hand, freeing up space and capital while giving your operation a winning edge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by a local branch.
If you wear glasses, you know how hard it is to find the perfect pair. But step into a Warby Parker store, and you'll see it doesn't have to be. Not only will you find a great selection of frames, you'll also meet helpful advisors and friendly optometrists. Yep, many Warby Parker locations also offer eye exams. So the next time you need glasses, sunglasses, contact lenses, or a new prescription, you know where to look. To find a Warby Parker store near you or to book an eye exam, head over to warbyparker.com/retail.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
He's been here a long time, and he's going to be here even longer.
Catch the show on demand whenever you want. Just subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, the Doobie Brothers are coming to PNC Bank Arts Center on August 7th and Northwell at Jones Beach Theater on August 10th. ESPN New York has your chance to score tickets to the venue of your choice on the ESPN New York app. Just scroll down the contest, submit your entry. It's brought to you by Live Nation. Tickets go on sale this Friday. That's at 10 a.m. at Ticketmaster.com. Mets just signed Drew Smith to a one-year contract and a second-year option. So building up their pitching base, which is very, very smart. Another baseball injury, Anthony Rendon. His rehab has not been going well, so he's going to have hip surgery. He's out for the foreseeable future for the Angels. And you know, it's always fun, worse this, worse that. You take a look at the Anthony Rendon contract with the LA Angels. I'd say it's in the bottom 5 contracts of all time. I mean, they got nothing from this guy. Nothing. So everything they've done with long-term contracts, if you look at the Angels with long-term contracts, it's been brutal. Look at the money that's still owed to Mike Trout. He can't stay on the field. Now, he's a great player, can't stay on the field. Look at the money they gave Josh Hamilton, sunk cost. Look at the money that they gave to Albert Pujols. Just dreadful. I mean, 2 years after he signed it, it was a sunk cost. It was awful. Everything they do seems to backfire. I mean, they play in a beautiful stadium in a beautiful part of the country. The Dodgers seem to have everybody wanting to play for them. And the one contract they had a chance. Do you guys know, guys and gals, that Shohei Ohtani, the contract that he eventually signed with the Dodgers, 10 years, $700 million, $68 million guaranteed each year. So all you had to do was pay $2 million a year. He offered the same deal to Artie Moreno, the owner of the Angels. Same deal. And Moreno said, no thanks. No thanks. So he said thanks to Rendon. He said thanks to Pujols. He said thanks to Josh Hamilton. He said, thanks to Trout, but arguably the greatest player in baseball, when you put everything into account and the money that he makes you off the field, you said no thanks to Ohtani. Ohtani's a creature of habit. He did not want to leave Anaheim. He was very, very, very happy there. So he gave Artie Moreno the right to match what the Dodgers are doing, and Moreno said no. Wow. Now, the Aaron Rodgers story to me is interesting. The Jets have not announced officially that he's gone. The fact that they had him fly 3,000 miles from California to meet with them, and then at that meeting, they said you're going to have to appear at every single workout. And you can't go on McAfee. You can have no outside media obligations. Now, we don't know if Rodgers said no or yes to this. Because if they said you have to appear at every single function, every mandatory minicamp, every workout, let's say he said yes, and you can't go on Pat McAfee, let's say he said yes, would the Jets not take him back? So you mean to tell me he said no? Now, the McAfee thing would cost him money because as far as we know, I think they pay him like $1 million a year to appear on that show on Tuesday. And it was worth every penny for Pat to do that because it brought a lot of eyeballs and attention to that show. And the Jets didn't want him to do it because Aaron Glenn is a disciple of Bill Parcells, doesn't like celebrity quarterbacks, and only wants you to come to him. He's the voice of the franchise. So I have to know, at some point, is it going to come out, did Aaron Rodgers say, no, I'm not doing that, and then the Jets said, okay, you're out? Because if he said yes and he flew 3,000 miles, why wouldn't they have kept him? And you guys know, you've listened to the show, there's stuff about Aaron Rodgers that annoys the heck out of me. But I still think the guy could play quarterback. And you got to tell me, if you're a Jet official, who is playing quarterback? Because there's no way Aaron Glenn is going to use this as a rebuild year. There's just no way. They can't go 5-12. They can't. So wouldn't it have made sense to bring back Rodgers, because he's going to cost you about $50 million on dead cap money? Now, you could obviously circumvent that by bringing in Cousins, who would cost you $1.2 million. So, I mean, that's the price of a good quarterback, right? $51.2 million. And then you still have Tyrod Taylor signed. But I'm just curious. You make him fly 3,000 miles. You present him with this stuff. Did he say yes and you still don't want him? Or did he say, absolutely not, I'm too old for this nonsense? Was he tired of the Jets? Did the Jets make him an offer that they knew that he would refuse? But if Aaron really wanted to play for the Jets, right? Really wanted to play for the Jets, why would he have let that stand in the way? Of course he should be at every single workout. He has a house in Jersey. What's the big deal? And so you give up McAfee. Those are the two things that you have to check the box and then you come back. So it's very curious. Either they didn't want him and they made the term so onerous that he had to turn it down, or he didn't want them. And he said, no, I'm not doing that. And shame on him. I mean, the McAfee stuff, I mean, that's a no-brainer. If you want to play for the Jets, you just give it up. The other no-brainer to me, I mean, you should be at every single mandatory workout. That shouldn't be an issue. What he did last year, he spit in the face of Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas. Yeah, I'm going to miss the mandatory 3-day minicamp. I've got a vacation plan to Egypt. You couldn't delay it 3 days? To me, that was a major flex, a flex of being kind of a jerk. I'm going to show them who's boss. I am not going to go to that mandatory minicamp. Hey, I was at all the voluntary ones. Yeah, but you weren't at the mandatory one. And I remember Jet fans saying, what are you making a big deal of it? If he does well, it doesn't mean anything. Okay, he did poorly. The Jets did poorly, so did it mean something? Would you agree that it meant something now? Just wondering. This story is yet to be told. Maybe we have to wait for another Ian O'Connor book. I need to know what went on in that meeting. You made the guy fly 3,000 miles to tell him you don't want him? I don't understand that. It's cruel. So a caller brought this up yesterday. It's like when the Mets had Willie Randolph fly out to Anaheim, manage a game against the Angels, win the game, and then fire him. You made him travel essentially 6,000 miles in the air to tell him he was fired when you could have fired him when the Mets were still at Citi Field. That's evil personified, what they did. And if the Jets made this guy fly 3,000 miles to tell him they didn't want him, that's awful too. You could have done that on a Zoom call. But if they had every intention of keeping him and he would not actually accede to what I think are reasonable demands, then shame on him. Then he should have been embarrassed. Maybe he thinks, I got something better waiting for me out there. What, the Raiders? That's better? You got Pete Carroll, which is impressive. We'll see. Because by saying goodbye to Rodgers, saying goodbye to Devontae Adams too. And I need to know who your quarterback's going to be. That's all I need to know. Because you got to have a plan B. When your plan A is letting rid of a future Hall of Famer, then tell me what your plan B is. And they don't have to tell me just yet. Are they going to wait to 7 in the draft and pick a quarterback then? Are they going to get a veteran quarterback? Are they going to go for Justin Fields? Are they going to go for Kirk Cousins? Tell me that all of those quarterbacks that I just said could be a possibility are definitely better than bringing Rodgers back on a one-year deal. I'm not sure it is. And again, I'm not the biggest fan of Rodgers' nonsense. But as a player, he had a pretty decent year this year. Not great. Not prime Rodgers, but pretty decent. You can't tell me that Kirk Cousins is going to be better than that. And you can't tell me Justin Fields is going to be better than that. Because remember, Justin Fields was 4-2 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. 4-2 as a starter they were. And when Russell Wilson was ready to come back, Justin Fields took the bench. So there must be something there that they didn't like. And you think the Jets are going to love it? Interesting, right? We'll come back. Some big question marks coming up. And then Mike Lupica at 2:30. It's the K Show, K and U, right here on 880 ESPN.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K Show podcast.
You know what? Check yourself.
Hear more from Michael K weekdays at 1 on 880 ESPN.
Suck it up and like it.
The ESPN New York app and your smart speakers.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliate.
This episode is brought to you by Marvel Studios' Captain America: Brave New World. Starring Anthony Mackie as Captain America and Harrison Ford as President Ross. Don't miss the explosive return of Captain America as Sam Wilson uncovers a mysterious plot that threatens to destabilize the globe and confront an enemy that has the entire world seeing red. Enter a brave new world in IMAX and 3D this Friday. Get tickets now.
This is the Michael K Show podcast.
I gotta get more K.
Listen live weekdays at 1 on 880 ESPN, the ESPN New York app, and your smart speaker.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Hour 2 of our 2-hour radio program. Michael K and you, 1-800-919-3776, 2:30. It's a Wednesday. We talk with Mike Lupica here on the show. You know, they're in full swing now. Down in Florida, the Mets had their first workout yesterday. The Yankees pitchers and catchers reported yesterday, and not the workout with the position players, but with some of the young players and the pitchers and throwing BP and stuff like that. And the Yankees are having their first workout today. And so I was thinking today, what are the most important players on both teams that have to do what they have to do? Because when you put together a team, like if you put together the New York Yankees, you got to expect that Aaron Judge is going to give you an 8, 9, or 10 WAR. And if he doesn't, then you got problems. Everything else plays off of that. So there's certain players that you have to just assume are going to give you their usual performance. And if they exceed that, that's great. and it gives you some wiggle room. And if they don't exceed it and they come below it, then somebody has to pick it up. But if they completely, miss the mark by a lot, then you're in trouble. So, with the Mets, you got Juan Soto. You expect him to give you a certain amount of production. With the Yankees, you have Aaron Judge. You expect him to give you a certain amount of production. And if it doesn't happen, then you've got issues. Cool. Okay. These are the guys that I think are mega important for both teams. I came up with 2 for both. So we'll start with the Mets. Francisco Alvarez, to me, is a guy who has to rebound from what he did last year offensively. I mean, I looked at this guy and I said, this guy's going to be a catcher for 10 years who hits 25 to 30 home runs every single year. And last year, he really didn't play well. I think he hit like 235 in that general vicinity. And even he said he had to work on certain things during the offseason. He was not the offensive player that the Mets thought that he was going to get. Now, he might be, like Pete Alonso, one of these guys who's going to regret turning down that long-term offer from the Mets. Maybe he rebounds. But I think the Mets need him to have a big-time year, because if he doesn't, then all of a sudden their offense is a little bit shorter than they want it to be. If Alvarez becomes the player that he was a couple of years ago offensively, all of a sudden their offense is really, really potent. So that's player number 1 for the Mets that I think is hugely important, a big variable for them. Player number 2 is Senga. He pitched 5 innings last year. Now, his first year with the Mets, he was terrific. Then the shoulder issue, he comes back, he pitches 5 innings, and then he has a calf issue. He did come back and pitch in the playoffs, which is more than anybody thought he was going to do, but he pitched over 12 ERA in the playoffs. He's their number 1 starter. So if he's not your number 1 starter and doesn't pitch like your number 1 starter, you've got issues. Then all of a sudden, Sean Manaea has to be your number 1 starter. There's no more Luis Severino. He was overpaid by the A's. And then there's a lot of pressure on Frankie Montas and David Peterson. So the Mets have question marks in their starting staff, but everything is a little less pressurized if Kodai Senga gives them 28 healthy starts with that ghost fork, the whole deal. Those 2 guys, to me, are the variables for the Mets. Senga pitching like a number 1 starter completely solves their biggest question mark. That's how big he is. Can he do it? Yeah, if he's healthy, he could do it. But it came to light that when the Mets signed him to that contract, there were teams that had concerns about his shoulder. And I always get worried when you sign pitchers from Japan, because here in the States, we baby pitchers. We don't let them pitch 4 or 5 innings in the minors. They don't get built up. I mean, it's a very exact science. You can't put too many innings on their arms. In Japan, they start throwing in an inordinate amount of innings right from the time they're kids. So they believe you got to really work and throw a lot in order to be successful. And you take a look at the Japanese pitchers that have come to the States, they've had issues. Tanaka, 4 or 5 starts in for the Yankees, a UCL injury. Now, he never needed surgery, but after that UCL injury, although he was a very, very good Yankee pitcher, he was never the great pitcher they thought he was going to be. And I remember I asked Brian Cashman, I said, why are you not concerned with all the innings that Japanese pitchers throw in Japan, but you're so concerned about your teams in the minor leagues not using pitchers a lot of, and he just said, well, it's a different culture, I get it, but it still comes back to bite you. Same thing with Senga. Last year, although they won a championship, Dodgers spent all this money on Yamamoto. He missed a lot of the season with a shoulder injury. We'll see if that's the same issue with Sasaki. So the Mets have a lot riding on Kodai Senga. So those are my 2 big wild cards for the Mets. Now for the Yanks. Listen, the easy one is the third base situation. And you still have to convince me that that's what the Yankees are going into the season with. You still have to. You got to prove it to me. That you're willing to go into the season with DJ LeMahieu, Oswaldo Cabrera, Oswald Peraza, or Yorvit Vivas. You got to prove it to me. I keep saying it. I don't want to sound like a broken record. It has a lot of that Bubba Crosby feel to it. Bubba Crosby's going to be our center fielder. Bubba Crosby's going to be our center fielder. For you younger Yankee fans, look it up. Right before the season began, right in the middle of spring training, they signed Johnny Damon. So maybe they're just waiting for prices to come down. Maybe they got to move there. They have to bring the payroll underneath the final threshold. I don't know. I'd be stunned. And I know they have $30 million still to pay DJ LeMahieu, but you can't throw good money after bad by having DJ LeMahieu shoehorned into third base when he's not the player that he once was. We'll see. You know, Aaron Boone said yesterday he's had a lot of injuries. Even when he was healthy, he struggled. Let's all be honest with each other. So third base is the easy one. But the most important player for the Yankees, to me, for their ultimate success, is Jason Dominguez. They've been waiting a long time. Signed this guy when he was 16. Burst upon the scene in his first at-bat against Verlander with a home run in Houston. There's a lot to like about him. And Aaron Boone has always been a big proponent that this guy's not just a good player, he's going to be an absolute star. He has told me that privately, too. And he says the same thing publicly. So he's not just like putting lipstick on a pig because it's a Yankee prospect. Boone loves him. Now, I think they're making a mistake by playing him in left field. I said that yesterday, so I don't need to repeat myself. I say this guy's so important, you put him in center field where he's comfortable, where he's played most of his minor league career, and let Bellinger play left. But they're going to see what happens in spring training. They have a long runway. That's their verbiage. And they can see exactly where he's going to be comfortable. But he wasn't bad in left field last year. He was dreadful. Dreadful. Didn't seem like he read the ball well off the bat. The Yankees desperately wanted him to be their starting left fielder in the postseason. But he was so poor defensively in left that they had to go with Verdugo because they could not afford to give out outs in big games. If Jason Dominguez is not the player that the Yankees think, they're in trouble. Because the only fallback that the Yankees have is Trent Grisham. And unlike the Yankees, I am not all in on Trent Grisham. He's a strikeout machine. He does hit home runs. He's going to be one of those guys who hits 200, 198, something like that. Might run into 22 home runs. And he's a good defender. To me, he's an imperfect player. He's so far from a perfect player. So that's your fallback if Dominguez does not do it. I mean, what do you have in the minor leagues? Everson Pereira? Spencer Jones is not ready to play in the majors yet. Dominguez is so important that if something happens to him in spring training and he doesn't produce, they might have to swallow hard and bring back Alex Verdugo, who still hasn't signed with the team. So much is riding on this 22-year-old. They have to be right with him. He's got to be the player that they always thought he was going to be, both production-wise and health-wise. That's one of the things he has not been able to do. He can't stay healthy. All right, time for you to co-host 1-800-919-3776, 1-800-919-3776. Where are you? Let's go to Lake in Spokane. What's up, Lake?
Hi, Michael. Thanks for taking my call. I have two quick questions for you. I've been seeing some stuff today about obviously Ben Rice showed up with pitchers and catchers, that, he's going to be competing for that backup catcher spot, as well as some first base flexibility. One, do you think that there is a path for Ben Rice to get on this roster without being that backup catcher? Because it feels like there's a lot of other guys on this roster that would start ahead of him for first base. And then secondly, are there any prospects this year that haven't made a debut that maybe we as fans should be watching in the minors that maybe end of this year, next year, something like that, could be competing for a roster spot? So thanks for taking my call.
You got it. The Ben Rice thing is interesting, Lake. If he's your backup catcher, now one of the knocks on Ben Rice is he can hit, but he's not a good defender. But before you read too much into that, that was the same knock on Austin Wells. And Austin Wells has turned into a plus defender, a really good framer of pitchers, the whole deal. But do you want to have your backup catcher also be left-handed like your starting catcher? I guess you can live with it. It's not ideal, but you can live with it. In terms of backing up at first base, I think the only way he makes the roster is if he is, in fact, the backup catcher, and then he could also back up Goldschmidt at first base. I don't think you make the team simply as a backup first baseman. You just don't. I don't think that's the proper use of a roster spot. I mean, your backup first baseman could be Oswaldo Cabrera. Switch hitter, can play over there, can play any infield position, can play the outfield as well. That's the key. Now, in terms of players that you haven't seen yet, Vivas, to me, he's intriguing. He had a very good spring training last year. He's yet to play in the big leagues. They got him from the Dodgers in the Trey Sweeney deal. I like him. He's got some pop. He's somebody that you could see in the big leagues this year. And the rest are pitchers. I don't think there's any position player that's ready to make his debut. I think Spencer Jones is still not there. George Lombard Jr. is still not there. So I would take a look at Vivas and some of the young pitchers. But this is a set team. This is somewhat of a set roster. It's going to be interesting to do what they do with Peraza, because he's out of options. So if they try to send him down, they'll lose him. So either he's going to make the team or they're going to trade him. And I don't see a real path for him making the team unless somebody gets hurt. He has not hit the way they thought he was going to hit. He could field with anybody, but he has not hit. 1-800-919-3776. Jonathan in L.A. Jonathan.
Hi, Michael.
Hi, Jonathan.
Hi, Michael. So last year, Garrett Cole started off the year, obviously, in the injury list. It was close to him having Tommy John surgery. So, Michael, I wanted to ask you, so what happened with that? Is that there's a chance that could actually come back and haunt him, or that's already done with?
Well, he really was not close to Tommy John surgery. I mean, you hear elbow, so you get nervous and you think Tommy John surgery, but that was never something that was close to being considered. He had a nerve irritation. The irritation went down, and he pitched in the second half. But it does tell you something, because remember, when he opted out, all the Yankees had to do was put that 10th year at $36 million, and he would not have been a free agent. You know what the Yankees said? No. If you want to become a free agent, be a free agent. So they know his medical's better than anybody. The guy's getting older. I don't know if there's going to be more problems there. The Yankees know that better than anybody. They did not give him that 10th year when they had the opportunity for him not to be a free agent. So they called his bluff, and to Garrett Cole's credit, he said, no, I don't want to be a free agent. I want to stay here. So he has 4 years left on his deal. I think he's a brilliant pitcher, and as long as he could throw a ball, even if he loses something velocity-wise off his fastball, he's so smart. He'll find a way to get it done. He will find a way to get it done. That's just how good he is. But I think he goes into spring training this year without any worries. Health-wise, he's supposed to be fine. We'll see. But it does always worry me when you have something wrong with you, and then it never really gets fixed. Instead, you rest it and it gets better. Is it going to rear its ugly head again? There's a lot of innings in that arm. A lot of innings in that arm. 1-800-919-3776. Hector in Queens. Hector.
Hey, Michael.
How you doing,
I
Hector?
just want to touch on the St. John's and UConn thing. I'm a huge UConn fan. Growing up as a kid, I always wanted to root for St. John's, but they were just always so terrible. And so I just gravitated to UConn, seeing as it is a Big East school. It's interesting now. I'm not going to root against UConn, but I'll definitely root for St. John's because I am a New York City kid. It's interesting now that they're going to play an MSG, and every time we play an MSG, it's always a UConn crowd. I want to see how much it shifts, you know what I mean, in that game. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, I think that, and they have a game coming up in Madison Square Garden, and I think that it'll be pro St. John's. I mean, Patino has turned it around such that he's using Madison Square Garden as a real positive and also a recruiting tool. So I think in the past, because St. John's has been so bad for so long, that UConn fans were able to get their hands on tickets. St. John's, there was no clamor for them to go see the game. But I think when UConn plays St. John's at Madison Square Garden, it's going to be a pro St. John's crowd. I think by a lot. Let's go to Jerry in Manhattan. Jerry.
Hey, Michael, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing, Jerry?
Good. I was really surprised. I was going to talk about the Yankees, but last week you were talking about Alonso. Like, that was a bad deal on a one-year deal. I didn't understand that. This is a guy, I think in his last 5 years, only Judge has had more home runs than him. He averaged 120. And if you get in a guy like Juan Soto there, who's going to be bringing him in? A guy who's on base 400 on base percentage, who is going to be your big run producer? I really didn't understand your take. It sounded like more like an anti-Met take because of a one-year deal.
Did you hear the entire thing I said, Jerry? Or did you just see
I heard the entire thing. You were talking about...
Okay, so what I said was the Mets won by getting him on a one-year deal. That was the best thing that they could possibly get. They lost by paying him $30 million for that 1 year when they valued him at $22.5 to $23 million. So what they did was they swallowed hard, and Steve Cohen said, okay, I'll pay him way above market value to get him for that 1 year. I didn't say it was a bad deal. I said it was an overpay.
Yeah, but $8 million, you're making a big deal for 1 year.
Well, so $8 million is not a big deal. So if it stops, you know that $8 million, right, is $16 million. Because they're at 110% tax.
I think it's just overreaction, like for his production, how he's produced.
He didn't have 5 years. Are you a Met fan, Jerry?
No, I'm a Yankee fan. But
okay. So his production last year. Do you know what his OPS was last year? 788. 788, the worst of his career. 35 home runs. This is a guy who used to hit 40 and 50 home runs. So he's on the downside.
Can you tell me that could be one bad, mediocre season, but tell me one player that has averaged more home runs or more RBIs in the last 5 years. You're not going to find too much players
but what happened? What happened last year, Jerry? 788 OPS.
That's why you give him a 1 year deal, Michael.
And that's why I said the 1 year deal was a positive thing. Did you hear what I said? But the $30 million is too much. I'm not saying they shouldn't have done it. They're overpaying him the $30 million.
How much did Christian Walker get? How much did Santander get? That's not an overpay when his last 4 or 5 years.
Christian Walker makes $22 million a year.
Okay, but who's had the better career or the better?
But okay, so Jerry, since you're in the mood to argue, what offers did Alonso have? Anybody could have signed him. What offers did he have?
Didn't he had a bigger offer from the Mets that he turned down early on?
He signed with the Mets.
Yeah, but in the beginning stage, you know what I'm talking about, Michael.
That was 2 years ago. That was 2 years ago for a different GM.
This offseason, didn't they offer him more money and he rejected the deal? And the Blue Jays, weren't the Blue Jays offering more money?
No, we don't know what the Blue Jays offered him.
So there was no market for him at all.
Obviously not. He came back to the Mets, right? He wanted the $30 million for 1 year. There was not a great market for him because he probably maybe didn't want to play in Toronto and he didn't want to play for the Angels. Those are the teams that we heard about. For a guy who's one of the great home run hitters over the last 5 years, as you keep bringing up, the bottom line is there was not this vast, robust market that everybody thought there was going to be. There just wasn't. There's a guy who turned down 7 years at 158 2 years ago when Billy Epler was the GM. He's not even close to getting that. Not even close to getting it. So, I mean, what are we talking about? The biggest offer the Mets supposedly out there was 3 years at 68 to 70 million bucks. That's what they valued him at, about 22 to 23 million. I give them credit. They overpaid for him for just 1 year, and also they helped him save face. So he comes back to the Mets on essentially a 1 year deal, and he could say, and his agent could say, we got him the highest average annual value of any first baseman in history other than Miguel Cabrera. But it's 1 year. That's where the Mets won. 1 year. You know where they lost? They overpaid him. But that's Steve Cohen, and he has the money. If you're going to make a mistake with the Mets, you make a mistake the money-wise. It doesn't matter to him. He's got $22 billion personal fortune. But to say, well, he's had more home runs in the last 5 years, he didn't have a good year last year. He had a great postseason. He didn't have a great year. That market that he thought was going to be out there, he was looking for like Aaron Judge money. It didn't materialize. First basemen don't get that kind of money. Not in their 30s, and certainly not from David Stearns, the Mets GM. He doesn't believe in it. He simply doesn't believe in it. I mean, what's he arguing about? If you listen to the whole thing, I said the Mets got a great deal for 1 year. They got a bad deal having to pay him $30 million. Well, how are you arguing with me? Freddie Freeman makes less. Matt Olson makes less. So tell me, who's better? Freddie Freeman, who's going to the Hall of Fame? Matt Olson? Who's a better first baseman? And they make much less than this guy. Where's your argument? I don't get it. The guy was worth more to the Mets than any other team in baseball. And the Mets would not give him a long-term offer. They refused. So again, all you people that are defending the signing, where's your argument? Again, you're not listening to what I'm saying. 1 year, great, very smart. $30 million, not great, overpay. So forget him for 1 year. You overpaid him, and Steve Cohen doesn't care. He's got that money in coins in his ashtray. $7-8 million. Who cares? But the proper valuation of this player, according to the Mets GM, was $23 million a year. That's it. Argue with them. Don't argue with me. Argue with them. Don't argue with me. Mike Lupica will join us in just a moment. March is almost here, and college basketball is reaching its most exciting stretch of the season. Right now, new customers on FanDuel get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $150 extra bucks to bet on everything from conference clashes to tournament upsets, and even who's cutting down the nets. So if you've been waiting to join FanDuel, there's no better time. The app is easy to use, and when you win, you'll get paid instantly. So visit FanDuel.com/K. Get in on the college hoops action before March takes over. 21 plus and physically present in New York. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
Grainger knows space at your facility is limited. As a maintenance specialist, you only have so many spots for backup products in your inventory roster, which means space on your bench comes at a premium. Well, when it comes to breadth and depth, Grainger's got you covered. They've got over 1 million industrial-grade products. Plus, fast delivery helps reduce the inventory you need to keep on hand, freeing up space and capital while giving your operation a winning edge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by a local branch.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
There's one thing that will forever change the way you sleep, and it's the softest 100% organic cotton sheets from Branch. You'll fall asleep faster, wrapped in the most luxurious comfort. You'll never sleep hot again with sheets that feel breathable to sleep in. You'll experience the purest softness on night one and feel your sheets get even softer with every wash. Discover the difference with 15% off your first set of sheets at bowlandbranch.com with code SPORTS15. Exclusions apply. See site for details.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
He's been here a long time, and he's going to be here even longer.
Catch the show on demand whenever you want. Just subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to the Michael K. Show at 3 o'clock. Don, Hahn, and Rosenberg take over for 4 hours from 3 to 7, leading you right into the Knicks pregame show. Knicks against Atlanta tonight, the last game before the All-Star break. It's Wednesday. It's 2:30. So that means we get a chance to talk to Mike Lupica. You can consume Mike Lupica here on Wednesdays. You could read him in the Daily News, MLB.com, and in the many, many best-selling books that he authors as well. And he joins us now. Michael, how you doing?
Good, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing great. Let's talk about the Super Bowl. We have not gotten your take on that on the show yet. And the amazing thing about that, all of the so-called experts, the pontificators on radio, on TV, there's nobody that saw a blowout by the Eagles coming, and that's what makes it so great.
Michael, I will tell you this. There is an expression from tennis that covers what happened on Sunday night, and it is this. That's why they put the net up. If we knew how these games were going to go, we wouldn't care about sports nearly as much as we do. This is why they play the games. And even in a beatdown, that to me was why sports is great the other night. And for all of the talk from all of us going in about the three-peat and Saquon and this and that, okay, we weren't focusing on sometimes the simplest things, and that is that Vic Fangio had clearly decided that they couldn't block his guys up front. That they had a left tackle who couldn't block and a right guard who could block even less than the guard who went over to play tackle. And Michael, it was so similar. Obviously, it wasn't a beatdown in Glendale, Arizona, but on the first play of the Giants-Patriots, the 18-0 Patriots Super Bowl that night in Glendale, O.C. Umenyiora came around in, and he didn't get a sack, but he put Tom Brady on his butt, and he hit him hard. And it was the old Tyson line. Everybody's got to play until they get hit. Well, he got hit all night long, and he played better getting hit all night long than Patrick Mahomes did. And then this game turned out to be one we had actually seen before involving the Chiefs. And that is when Brady and the Bucs pretty much did to him what the Eagles did on Sunday night, which is make him run for your life. And I don't care who you are. When the roof is caving in on you time after time after time, then you become quite ordinary. You know what they made him look like on Sunday night for most of that game? Daniel Jones, when they weren't blocking for him.
You know, sometimes we actually make too much of the strategy in football, but two of the greatest quarterbacks that we'll ever see in our life, Mike, Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady. The way you solve them is you make them uncomfortable and you put pressure up the middle. It's that easy. Now, it's not that easy to do, but if you get that done, I don't care how great the quarterback is, he's going to have struggles. And the interesting thing, we were talking about, the GOAT debate, which I think is funny all the time, that, Mahomes is closing in on Brady. Brady lost 3 Super Bowls, Mike, and he never looked as bad as Mahomes has looked against Tampa Bay and against the Eagles. Never. Not even close. He had 1 interception in those 3 Super Bowl losses, and he got hit, as you mentioned, a lot in those games.
No, Mike, he's thrown in 2 stinkers, and guess what? As we used to say in high school, that's part of his permanent record now. And it's why we can't write these stories as much as we want to and have those GOAT debates until it's all over, Michael. And it makes us impatient sometimes. And he would have been declared the GOAT if he had won 3 Super Bowls in a row, and then he didn't come close. Mike, I was talking throughout the night to texting with my boys, and very early on, I said to one, I can't forget which one. I have so many of them, and I said, and I said, this reminds me so much of the Seahawks Broncos Super Bowl in Jersey. Michael, after 5 minutes, I forget who I was sitting next to that night, I said, one team looks a lot bigger and a lot faster than the other team. The Broncos weren't nearly playing at the same speed as the Seahawks were that night, and that became this kind of beatdown. I know it was 40-22, but everybody knows it could have been 140-22 the other night. It was one of those things that happens, and we said, well, Saquon's got to have a big night for that. No, none of that happened. Vic Fangio had obviously determined they couldn't block his guys. He only had to rush 4. He could drop back 7. They could cover Kelce. They could cover Worthy. They could cover everybody. And it's like a famous line from Dan Jenkins' novel, Semi-Tough. What could have happened did.
And the interesting thing is how the narrative shifts because of that one 60-minute game on Sunday. I'm not sure, Mike. I mean, people will jump me for this. I'm not sure if they get another Super Bowl for Kansas City. Travis Kelce's obviously. And then the Eagles, they're talking to Sal Palantonio yesterday, Mike. He thinks, who's stopping the Eagles from going back to the Super Bowl next year?
Mike, how close are the Eagles to having won 3 Super Bowls in 7 years? They're that close to 3-7 and 2-3. Okay, they lost 38-35. And everybody's still focused on the holding call. No. They would have won that night if Jalen Hurts, who had the other game of his life in that game, hadn't dropped the ball and they hadn't gotten a gift touchdown way before the end of that game. Oh, no, the Eagles, I wrote about the Eagles the other day and Howie Roseman, Mike. I had a column in the Daily News either yesterday or the day before in which I said the only team that had a worse night than the Chiefs did was the Giants on Sunday night, because they saw what we all saw about how good the Eagles are. And they saw what the Eagles had done to the team that's also ahead of the Giants in the NFC East, the Commanders, in the NFC Championship game. I think Hurts is 26. Jalen Carter is 24. Saquon is 28. DeJean, the kid who had the pick six, he's 22. They are set up. Howie Roseman is as brilliant an executive as there is in the National Football League right now, and he's as dangerous an opponent for the Giants as Jalen Hurts or Saquon or any of those guys.
Well, if you're the Giants, you have to really be a little bit nervous now because you have the Eagles there for the long haul. The Commanders are only getting better. I'm sorry, people hate the Cowboys, but they do have a lot of talent. They have a new coach now. I don't know what he's going to be, but I don't see them going 7-10 again. Giants are looking up at that division, and they could be looking up in a long time. They don't even have a quarterback.
Mike, I really love the idea that this thing that's getting floated now that, maybe Matthew Stafford might be coming to the Giants because they hired his brother-in-law as assistant coach. And I started to think, okay, he's 37. Aaron Rodgers was 39. They hired Rodgers' buddy to come in as a coach before he got here. Gee, what could possibly go wrong with a scenario like that for the New York Giants? No, they've got to find a quarterback, Mike. I mean, the Eagles, look at the Eagles, by the way. Sometimes it is a death sentence in football if you are wrong with a quarterback you take 1, 2, or 3 in the draft. The Jets found out with Zach Wilson. The Eagles survived.
Yep.
Drafting Carson Wentz.
And signing him to a long-term deal.
And they have survived, and they won one Super Bowl with a backup quarterback, and now they won another with a kid Hurts who has got as much athletic heart as anybody playing that position right now. You look at the trajectory of his career, Michael. It's such a great story. He gets benched in the championship game for Alabama, okay? And he's doubted so wildly after the way the Eagles collapsed at the end of last season. And now he steps up like this, and he has had the brightest possible lights on him twice and has played the 2 games of his life so far.
All right, Michael, I come to you when I'm confused, okay? So
think of me as your life coach.
Yes,
Michael.
you give me clarity. So I need to know, why do the Jets have Aaron Rodgers fly 3,000 miles so they could tell him, you've got to attend all of our camps and you can't be on Pat McAfee? So do you believe that Rodgers said no to both of those, or the Jets didn't want him anyway and just said, you know what, let's make it uncomfortable, make him fly 6,000 miles round trip? What went on there?
I don't think that they just made him do that to punish him, because the people doing the punishing weren't there last season. Okay,
but they're working for Woody.
Right. So, maybe Woody wanted this. I don't know. I have a feeling that they wanted to say what they felt they needed to say to him to his face, which I can respect. But I never thought he was going to come back. I thought the Aaron that they need to be in charge here is not the Aaron who played quarterback. It's the Aaron who's going to be the head coach. They have to turn the page, Michael. I can't believe. I don't know if they would have had any contractual right to make him not go on McAfee's show. By the way, all props to Pat McAfee. It turned out to be great for him.
Oh,
okay?
Great money spent.
No. Guess what, Mike? Rodgers turned out to be a much greater acquisition for Pat McAfee than he did for the New York Jets. Okay? Rodgers gave much more value to Pat than he ever did to Woody Johnson. Okay? But I can't believe that anybody ever thought that that was a good thing for the New York Jets. It was a distraction every single Tuesday. Every single Tuesday. And this became, what do they talk about? Drama dumps? That's who Aaron Rodgers was. And it wasn't all his fault. Obviously, he didn't want to get hurt in his first game as a Jet. But he was just one drama dump after another, dump being the appropriate word.
All right, before we let you go, we talked about this yesterday, or last week. It wasn't official till Thursday night. Eli doesn't make the Hall of Fame. We find out he doesn't even make the final 10. We find out that the way the voting is going to happen over the next couple of years, he might not get in for a while because they don't usually put in two quarterbacks. Drew Brees is eligible, and then you can have all these other quarterbacks become eligible, like Ben Roethlisberger. What happened? Well, I mean, what do you think happened there?
I think it's Manning fatigue. I think they became obsessed with his lifetime win-loss record. I think they didn't put nearly enough weight on not only the two Super Bowls that he won, and the way he performed in them, and the way he took his team down the field twice in the heat against one of the greatest teams of all time, and won those games, Michael. And you know what? Drew Brees is going to be an automatic lock, okay? And I'm sorry. Drew Brees was lucky to win the one Super Bowl he won. He didn't win that Super Bowl as much as Peyton lost it by throwing an interception to Trace Porter, okay? Mm-hmm. And he's going to be a slam dunk. And listen, I'm prejudiced about Eli. I'm prejudiced about the Mannings. This is not some sort of great crime that he didn't get in. I'm aware that Joe Namath didn't get in until his third try. I forget. Michael Strahan was a lot, right? It took him a while, too. Yep. And Michael Strahan's one of the greatest players the Giants ever had. I just think I think the system that they do this is dopey. I think all the backroom stuff that goes on is ridiculous. And, I now think that this is we went over this on multiple occasions on your show. This may take a while now, and it's a shame because it would have been a great thing to have it happen for him in New Orleans.
And also, I mean, the way the NFL runs it, right, it makes baseball seem as transparent as Kanye West's wife dress. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Michael, I wrote this the other day. It makes our system with the baseball writers look like church compared to the way they do it in pro football.
Yeah, it's skull and bones. I don't get it. Who chooses these 49 people? How do they get chosen? And it's like Supreme Court justices. They stay there forever.
It's true. Michael, what's that movie about the Pope? Conclave? Yes. It's the NFL version of Conclave.
Absolutely. Great stuff, Mike. We'll talk to you next Wednesday.
Okay, pal. Bye-bye.
All right, now it's time for you to take over. All right, we're going to finish it up with you. 1-800-919-3776. We got some spots open for you as you co-host the rest of the show until we turn it over to Don, Hahn, and Rosenberg. That's the way it works. That's the way it will continue to work. And when you work hard, you save hard. So treat yourself with well-earned savings all month long at Bay Ridge Mazda. Get financing rates as low as 0.9% APR on nearly every new model in stock. 0.9% APR. Their goal is complete credit approval regardless of your score. Plus, take advantage of Bay Ridge Plus benefits like ding and dent coverage, key replacement, windshield protection, and roadside assistance. Come see them today in Brooklyn or online at BayRidgeMazda.com. See dealer for details.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
This is a PSA, or public sock announcement. Experts have declared Bombas socks as the best way to warm up chilly feet. These pairs are super cushy, soft, and designed for maximum coziness. Plus, for every pair purchased, another pair will be donated, so someone in need of essential clothing can stay warm this winter. Go to bombas.com/ESPNpod and use code ESPNpod for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/ESPNpod and use code ESPNpod.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Allo or Allbirds or Skims, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%. Meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. On the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. The secret's out. Businesses that want to grow, grow with Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Untuckit uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/network, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/network to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/network.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
He's been here a long time, and he's going to be here even longer.
Catch the show on demand whenever you want. Just subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts.
So Travis Kelce was on his New Heights podcast with his brother, Jason, today. And although leading up to the Super Bowl, he said he was definitely going to play next year. Now he kind of walked that back a little bit. He said, I know everybody wants to know whether I'm playing next year, and right now I'm just kicking everything down the road, kicking every can I can down the road. I'm not making any crazy decisions. Then he goes on to say, I've been fortunate over the past 5-6 years. I've played more football than anybody. It's because of the people that are in that building. The fact that we keep going to these AFC championships and these Super Bowls, that means I'm playing an extra 3 games more than everybody else in the entire league. That's a lot of wear and tear on your body, and it's a lot of time spent in the building, focusing on your craft, focusing on the task at hand, and every challenge that you set up for yourself. That process can be grueling. It can weigh on you. It can make you better, can drive you crazy at the same time. And right now, it's one of those things where it's driving me crazy this year. It happens as you kind of tail off toward the back nine of your career, as Scott Van Pelt would say. So there you have it. He's going to take his time. He didn't look great in the Super Bowl. He had 4 catches, and I think it was for 39 yards. Did have a big game against the Houston Texans, 7 catches, 117, and also looked overmatched in trying to block, help block Philadelphia's great rush. So we'll see. He's one of the greatest tight ends of all time. We'll see if he walks off into that good night. It seems like his post-career is planned. Makes a lot of money from the New Heights podcast, hosting that show, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? He's got a lot of stuff going for him. I'm sure networks will reach out to him as well. And he's dating one of the most famous, richest people on the planet. 1-800-919-3776. Let's go to Bernie in Virginia. Bernie, what do you got?
All right. If Pete signed the same exact contract with another team, I would have been upset. I was fine letting Pete go, but a 1-year deal is worth almost any price for this guy. Because
I think you're right.
He could go back to hitting 50 home runs. It's a 1-year deal. There were reports in late January that Lindor wanted Pete back, and for me, that was the final piece. The Mets clubhouse, it lives and dies with Lindor, and if he wants Pete back at the clubhouse, that's all I need to know. All in all,
and Bernie, that's why, and I think you're dead right on everything you said. That's why they overpaid him. The fans wanted him. You cannot tell me what the fans did on that amazing day at Citi Field did not have some impact on the way that Steve Cohen thought. You just, I refuse to believe that they're going to be deaf to what the fans want. And if Lindor actually wanted him back, and you know what, you spend all this money on Soto, you have to have some legitimate protection in the lineup. But they didn't value him long term. So they got him to essentially accept a 1-year deal. And even if, God forbid, he gets hurt terribly this year, the most it is a 2-year deal, which drops the average annual value to $27 a year. You can live with it. You're not burying yourself on a long-term deal on an older player. Let's go to Nick in Woodbridge. Nick.
Hey, Michael, thanks for taking the call, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, you
got it. I love the new show. Yeah, man, I love the new show. Always love talking to you guys. So real quick with the Alonso thing, I think there's that recency bias, right? Like if he doesn't hit that home run against the Brewers, I don't think there's such a push to bring him back. I mean, his numbers are declining. I don't see it. I'm a Yankee fan, and I don't necessarily care what they do over in Queens, but I would thought a better fit for them would have been like Christian Walker, get an upgrade on both sides. I mean, he's a good hitter, great defender. That didn't happen. But, just real quick from a Yankee perspective, in your honest opinion, do you think this is what they go with at third base, or do you think there's still a move to be had?
I would be surprised if this is what they go with. If they go with it, maybe LeMahieu shows them something, Nick, but this is the one. When I look at the team we had on Boone yesterday, I said I think the team is the best team in the American League. So, I mean, you have to look at it through that prism, but you want to be as good as you could possibly be. And I think that third base is a huge question mark. Now, as for the one home run, let's give him a little more credit. He didn't have a great regular season, but he didn't just hit that one home run off Devin Williams. He hit 3 more after that, big home runs. Now, if he doesn't hit that home run off Devin Williams, then the 3 home runs never happen because the Mets end up losing in 3 games to Milwaukee. I think that what that did was get the fan base back in his corner, and they love him. And why wouldn't you? He's a homegrown Met. I think he's 25 home runs away from being the home run leader in Mets history. So that's important as well to pass Darryl Strawberry. So I think that is a big deal. But, earlier in the game, he tripped over a bat, and Met fans were getting really sick of him because he wasn't coming through. But that home run off of Devin Williams in the 9th inning in Milwaukee, that changed the whole tenor of how we look at the Mets last year. That's how important that home run was. If they got eliminated by Milwaukee, we'd say, oh, they got off to a slow start, and then they just got into the playoffs, and they lost in their first round. You look at it differently. He hits that home run, they win that game, and then they go to Game 6 in the NLCS. They're 2 wins away from going to the World Series. That's how big that home run was. So you can't say that didn't change the Met fans' hearts, because I think they were starting to get a little sick of the fact that he didn't produce during the year. But that home run off of Williams, that was big-time production and a big-time moment. Another fun show. We keep rolling along. Now I'll turn it over to Don, Hahn, and Rosenberg. They'll be on from 3 to 7, so you have to stay tuned for them. That's a great show. I'm telling you, it's a great show. You have to listen. That's how good they are. I'll be back again tomorrow at 1. In the words of Billy Joel, life is a series of hellos and goodbyes. I'm afraid it's time for goodbye again. See everybody. Have a great night. Enjoy Don, Hahn, and Rosenberg next on 880 ESPN.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
You know what? Check yourself.
Hear more from Michael K. weekdays at 1 on 880 ESPN.
Suck it up and like it.
The ESPN New York app and your smart speakers.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.